Hello everyone, this is Lye Yosh. Welcome back to Life City Library. Today we're going to be talking about leadership. So, the current society is overwhelmed with books and media talking about how to be a leader, how to become a leader, the techniques to show leadership and charisma, these kind of stuff. The leaders have qualities that are deemed by others as charismatic or confident, and by having the quality or technique, leaders will be important, and you want to be important. So you should learn how to attain these techniques to gain respect and money and fame, and you can learn all this by attending my conference that costs $2,000, these kind of stuff. And a little insight for y'all is that whenever someone says that about anything about like the one way to become the best leader, ignore them because it's stupid. There are so many different personalities that differ among people, even at an individual level. So, in the sense of leadership or charisma, there is no one way fits all technique. But yeah, as long as humanity remains a social creature, there will be an emergence of leaders and other hierarchical categories. We are, and we have survived by being social, and in these social groups there are specific roles. There's the leader, the advisor person, the farmers, gatherers, hunters, and so on and on and on. And like I said earlier, there are so many types of leaders. And there are plenty of leaders who became leaders only because of their specific personality. However, you can put these leader personalities into general categories of universal dimensions of human social cognition. The qualities that makes other people want to surround themselves around you can be put into two specific types, which are warmth and competence. According to a study that examined 200 behavioral trait terms from a dozen cognitive dimensions, so stuff like controllability and situational stability, out of the 200, warmth and competence were proven to be globally accepted. So there are people who show leadership by warmth. So this means that they are generous to people. So in a company, when they see their workers struggling with something, they don't hesitate to help them out and communicate with them in a pretty frank way. This shows the people who are in the lower ranks, especially, that they can trust the leader and they like the leader, so they stick around. And then there's the competent leader. I feel like this one fits the stereotype of an ideal leader better, at least in the North American society. But this one shows its worth through capability. It commands respect from others, making them think this person is really good at what they're doing. If I follow their footsteps, it'll lead me to a better place. And this warrants a question. Which one is more important? Which one is more primary when people judge you and decide whether they want to follow you? Or more specifically, which one, either warmth or competence, is appropriate for me as an individual? And of course, if you can have both of these traits, that would be the best case scenario. But for this context of leadership and gathering people around you who are sharing the same goal, I'll first talk about which one of the two is more important, or rather, which one comes primary to the other. So, like, which trait do people look for first when judging you? And then I'm going to talk about the realistic environment in which either of the two types of leader are demanded. Basically means that in which situation, in which role you are in within that group, what kind of people are around you within that group, which one of the two types of leader should you become? So likewise, in this channel I talk about these interesting scientific and psychological information by implementing data from scientific studies. So so if you feel like you're interested in watching this video, and if you're interested in watching my other videos and my future content, then please subscribe to my channel. And yeah, thank you for subscribing to my channel. Let's continue with the video. So let's just start off by answering the question. Places like Princeton University have studied this phenomenon and concluded that out of the two traits, warmth comes before competence when people judge you. This really goes against all kinds of preaching when it comes to leadership or attractiveness or gaining respect, because so many people have said that you have to show capability in order to become a good leader. You have to do that in order to gain trust and respect from others. You can be a jerk, but as long as you show capability, you're going to be a good leader. Okay, that was an exaggeration, but you can't call a person who can't attract others to be a leader. So, or more specifically, if you are not capable of making or more specifically, if you are not capable of making people want to stick around with you, whether you're capable or not, you will pretty much isolate yourself. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when people say stuff like, no, competence is more important than being friendly, when people say this stuff, they usually bring up examples from celebrities or fictional characters, and that's already a big mistake. So they have examples like James Bond, right? That dude is undoubtedly extremely capable and can do a lot of things at a very high level. And that is why he is a terrible example when talking about how capability is the most important quality when attracting others. I mean, do you have any idea how long it takes to master any one of his capabilities? Like hand-to-hand combat, parkour, holding his breath, hacking, sailing, his physique? I'm talking about Daniel Craig. Being capable takes time and effort and a bunch of failures, and capability only comes after that and cannot be acquired in a day. It's so surprising that this concept is mistaken by so many people. And I'm not just talking about his physical trait, his mental stability is also up for discussion. When people say confidence like James Bond, what they mean is to stay calm during intense situations. Bond goes through all those insane stuff during his mission, and he keeps it cool and calm, or at least he makes it seem as if that's the case. Now, this, in some specific context, is a useful thing to acquire, like in the sense of mental competence during stressful situations. But then these influencers misinterpret this to not being easily impressed, or whatever that means. Like, there's this one YouTuber who I watched long before who said something along the line of, attractive men are not easily impressed. He always keeps a cold face indicating that he is of high value, and I just burst out laughing. I'm not going to specify the name of the channel, but it truly got a good laugh out of me. Also, people say stuff like, well, look at celebrities. Some celebs are not that nice and they're kind of sarcastic, but everyone thinks they're cool and they respect them. Well, of course everyone thinks he's cool. He's a celebrity. Like, quite frankly, how dare these normies think their value is in the same level as celebrities? Or it doesn't have to be a celebrity, but just like well-known people, I guess. But Yosh, look at Robert Downey. He's sarcastic and he teases other people, but everyone respects him. That's because he's a cool, capable leader, and not because he's nice. Well, did you know that RDJ is really kind to people who he surrounds himself with? You didn't know that? I thought so. So, okay, I got a little off tangent, but what I'm trying to get to is that competence, so the capability to do whatever you and others deem important, this takes time and effort to acquire. And when you look at being a leader with warmth or competence, focusing only on competence is frankly not worth the cost. It's so easy for people to fall to this idea that if I become competent, people will look at my value, so I can be a jerk to others, but it won't matter. And I got news for you. By the time you actually prove to be capable, more often than not, you're going to end up isolated. Now, like I said before, this does not apply to some career that benefit from being alone. For example, a researcher or a lab worker. But for the most part, and in terms of becoming a good leader, warmth comes before competence. And I'm going to tell you why. So the main claim is this: warmth is always judged before competence. So whether you are generous or not is always judged before whether you are capable or not. And the reason is, warmth is a fundamental indicator that people use to decide whether or not the person they're talking to is approaching with good or ill intent. So from an evolutionary perspective, humans have always judged one another and decided if that new person is a friend or a foe. And if it was you who's approaching the other person, you want to show the other person, don't worry, I won't cause any harm to you, I'm just a safe person who wants to join forces with you. That's how humanity performed their social behavior, by making friends, or joining forces, or gaining alliances. That's how they survived till today. And this form of introduction remains the same in the current society. So what's important to note is that showing that your intention is to have peace and make friends or alliances is more important than showing your ability to do stuff. And you can accomplish this through a warm approach and gesture. And that's exactly why when you meet a new person in school or like a new business partner, if you have half a sense, then you greet them with polite language and gesture like, thank you for your time to meet with me, or a handshake. You don't just give them a cold shoulder and brag about how much you accomplished within your life. If you want to join forces or make friends or attract other people, indicators of warmth are observed faster and are more important for others to notice about you. Plus, if you show competence but not warmth, so you show off like, look at me, I'm so capable, so you should respect me, you won't command respect, but more often than not, you will command fear in others, that you might go against them, even though you're desperately trying to prove your worth to the people in front of you. And when I say these kind of things, people are going to say, well, you got to show the scarcity of yourself and make them want to be around you, so you have to show competence. This claim is like half right, but many people misunderstand the meaning of this. Showing the scarcity of your talent or your capability isn't a pass for being rude or unfriendly. Without a warm introduction, you're going to make other people feel uncomfortable, and if you do this at the wrong situation, they're going to be glad to get rid of you. Stories and histories of being exiled or executed solely because you show too much competence is quite common. Others do see your capability, but they can't tell if you're willing to use that capability for them or against them. That's what creates fear and anxiety, and you end up being too competent for your own good. And this is related to being a good leader because, yes, you do want other people to respect you as a capable leader. That's true. But that won't happen unless people think you are safe and are worth following emotionally. Now I'm going to specifically talk about leaders. So, competent leaders versus warm leaders. Now, before I transition to this, I want to confirm that both types of leaders are highly effective in their own rights. And if you have both of these qualities, then you basically have not much to worry about when it comes to leadership. But we don't live in that kind of lucky world, so we're going to look at examples. Let's look at Tony Stark and Captain America. They're both charismatic, highly capable, and usually takes the most of leadership roles and credits. The most significant difference is that Iron leans big time towards competence, and America leans heavily towards warmth. Now, when we think about which one of these seems cooler, the majority of us would probably choose Tony over Steve. But if you're familiar with the movie or the comics, you kinda notice that Captain America suits as the better leader. I mean, it's his name, Captain of America. That's like his second job aside from being a superhero and punching people. So why is this? The cooler one seems to be Iron Man, but Captain America is the better leader. This is because Iron Man's personality represents individualism, while Captain America's personality represents collectivism. Let's analyze Tony Stark for a bit. So, Tony is intellectually capable. That makes him cool. That's kind of like his own unique superpower. But that also makes him a little jaded from the collective interest. He can basically manage everything by himself, and he doesn't have to rely on others. This makes him not really care so deeply about others. So like the other people's opinions, or the majority interest, or like majority norm, or the majority needs. And you can say that this kind of independent life is admirable, but you can also say that the independence makes him kind of unapproachable when someone is actually trying to get to know him. I mean, at least when compared with Steve, you gotta admit that he doesn't really like social connections with other people as much as Steve. Now, that doesn't mean he's unattractive. He definitely has the wit and the charm to attract people, but a part of his core personality doesn't really expose itself easily, and that's kind of like a part of his life. Compare that with Steve's social personality. He is not a tech genius and can't create robots that can help him. People don't like to admit this, but his power was kind of given to him. But this makes him more agreeable with other people, as he helps and get help from other people, way more than Tony. He also values social relationships and personal connections very much. To put it short, Captain America is more likable, and that's what makes a good leader. So now that we've talked about this, let's try to focus on your personality preference. So let's try to estimate which type of leadership quality fits you in case you become a leader of something, or anything related to leadership. And yeah, there are a lot of important things to note. Way too many things to note that I'm not going to even bother explaining everything. Remember, this is just an estimate of you choosing to be either a warm leader or a competent leader. There's obviously much more to this field. So the most fundamental principle is that you have to show warmth or competence depending on what kind of people you surround yourself with within your team. If your teammates or your subordinates or whatever are superb and excellent in their work, you're better off by being a warm leader who serves as an emotional and social chain that connects everybody. And I mean, if you're so skilled that you can outperform all of them, then that's not really a bad thing, but that makes you only half valuable as a leader. So even if you are superior in competence among other competent people that work under you, you're only adding to the things that they are already providing. So what I mean is that, let's say your workers can provide numbers from 1 to 10, and you can provide numbers from 1 to 20. Although this seems like a huge asset, you're only providing within the same category as your workers. Now, this is great if you're just a regular worker, just like everyone else, but a person in a superior position only provides value when they give something that the people who work under you completely lacks, or is something that's beyond their expertise. If your workers can provide numbers from 1 to 10, the leader should give something that only you can provide. Giving numbers from 1 to 20 makes you an excellent worker, but giving the alphabet from A to Z makes you a great leader. The superior rank only suits you because you do something that others can't or won't do, most notably, taking responsibilities. The president of the company is usually the one who shows up in media and apologizes or takes responsibilities when the company makes a mistake. Of course, that's not the only thing that presidents and high rank officers can provide, but you get my point, right? So in the case of you being a leader surrounded by competent workers, by observing the behavior of your workers, you might notice that although they are highly capable, they lack in communication, for example. Because like I mentioned before, competent people tend to be independent and do not actively rely on others. This is a problem for you because you're managing a team, and you know your team will have better results if everyone work together and help each other out. By noticing what's being provided by them and what is missing that can make better results, you can say that, okay, I'll change the meetings from individual reports to one that allows everyone to listen to and share each other's opinions and ideas. Or have like a social get-together so that my workers can get to know each other more. Or something like that. That's just an example, but the point is, this is what a leader is supposed to be doing. Leaders have to be observant of their subordinates, notice what they excel in and where they lack, and be able to provide or become a piece that can plug that opening. And in order to do this, you gotta be a warm leader who can relate and connect with others. You can't just focus on only being capable and expect everyone to follow you, you know? So the story is, yeah, that's important, but it's also not enough. So like a boss who bosses around isn't a boss, they are a nuisance. This is honestly worse than not being competent because these people who brag and show off how accomplished they are, how accomplished they seem to be, and wasting the workers' time and energy and the workers can't focus on what they're supposed to be doing. People who bring other people down because they can't or don't want to improve themselves and bring themselves up, you don't call these people leaders or bosses. You call them useless, worthless inconveniences. Okay, so back to the topic. You can be a leader with warmth who can be the group connector if your workers are a bunch of competent people, and vice versa. You can be the competent leader who becomes an example that your workers can follow. But you would still need warmth in order to notice the excellence and the flaws of your workers and show them how they can improve. And it's also important because the whole process isn't just like one-time thing, And by having warmth, you can repeat this process again and again. But again, this is just touching the basic bare minimum surface. So for those of you who want to learn more about the ideal leadership style for you individually, or just want to know more about the overall important things about leadership quality, I am here to suggest a book. Today's book is called The Progress Principle, Using Small Wins to Ignite Joy, Engagement, and Creativity at Work, by Teresa Amabile and Stephen Kramer. This book mainly talks about developing and strengthening your inner work life. Now, I'm not going to explain everything about inner work life because I want you to read it for yourself, but one of the key points is to motivate your workers as a leader. Motivate them by showing evidence of improved results. As a leader, or in this case, a manager, it's important to let your workers or your teammates advance in their work by showing them that they are doing better. And a good way to do this is to implement warm leadership quality and being able to notice others and socialize and understand them. Rather than praising others or yourself for the positive result, you have to get praises for the improved results and give the feeling that you did better than last time and you are improving. These are the kind of stuff that's being discussed in this book, and it's really interesting because these signs of improvements don't necessarily have to be real. Interested? Well, I have an Amazon link of the book in my description, so I suggest you go give it a read. Well, that's it for this video. Again, thank you for watching. If you want to watch my other past videos and want to keep up with my future upload, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be very happy that you did that. You have been listening to a video from Life Study Library hosted by me, Lye Yosh. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.